Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Alleyne. I am your host, and today in studio we have a dynamic duo, Ron and Jen, who are a married couple, and they are real estate experts who have built a multi-million-dollar real estate investment portfolio. But what's going to be interesting about them, aside from us talking about what you need to know about real estate and learning about how they started their business, between them, they have several licenses, which include being a real estate broker, licensed contractor, licensed cosmetologist, and ordained ministers. They are also speakers and teachers. And again, aside from talking about real estate investing, financial literacy, and how to create generational wealth, they are also experts on spiritual leadership, business coaching, building retail products, managing a blended family, and marriage and relationships. Welcome, Ron and Jen.
Wow.
You didn't realize you did all of that, did you?
Yeah. Now it's making me feel old.
It's making us feel old.
That's a lot of work.
Thanks so much, Sonia. We're so happy to be here. Thanks so much for having us on today.
Thank you for being here. And I would imagine with this wealth of information and expertise that some of this, if not most of it, you've experienced in your lifetime. And so if you could give us like a snapshot of how you all met, because you're married, and how is it that you have the same interests? Like, I think that that's fascinating, and you're able to work together. And I know that's not always easy, because we've talked about couples and partners working together. I know it's not always easy, but if you could help us understand like how it is you found each other, how you found these interests, and how you've been able to maintain this and create a business, not only for yourselves, right, to create wealth for yourselves, but to help others create wealth in their families and for their generations as well.
Wow. You know what? You're making us think way back now. We actually met at church. And we started off from the very beginning doing a lot of talking. So communication is really key to a relationship, and especially to a marriage. And so in doing all of that talking to one another, we found that we had a lot of the same interests. And I think that's kind of when you pull things out of each other in the very beginning of your connection and your relationship. You just begin to talk and you realize that you are like-minded in so many ways. And that can be the attraction. At least it was for us. Yeah. Right. And we knew how important it was for us to think the same way and be of the same mind. So we had a physical, a spiritual, and a mental connection that we recognized right away. And we talk about relationships all the time to other people. And I think those are very important connections to make, because if you don't, it will appear later on down the road to be a problem.
No doubt. And actually, when we first met too, we were a little older. We had both been married before. So we'd experienced a lot of things, good and bad, previous to coming together. And I think we had both grown spiritually a lot before we met. Matter of fact, you said we met at church, but we were very involved, and I was separately from Jen, and she was as well, and our families, our children, stuff like that. So, but when we met, it was really an effort, not so much to initially date, but it was just because we did like a lot of similar things. We talked about business. We liked food. We talked about eating. We liked to eat. We ate. We shared meals quite frequently and did different things, but we just liked a lot of the same things. We loved the beach. We loved tropical trips. And so the more and more we talked, I was like, hey, this woman is, not only is she fine, but she like has a lot of things that I like. It was looking pretty good. So that's kind of the start.
It is. And that's a really good question, though, Sonia, because I think the thing that attracted us both is that we had such stimulating conversations. Like mentally, we kept each other so challenged and stimulated that we enjoyed talking to each other. Like we didn't need a whole lot of other people to be around. We just became really good friends that way. But I think it was the mental stimulation that really was kind of a lure for each of us.
Yeah,
like
I
we
mean,
love talking about things and challenging each other's thoughts. I'm like, what do you want to do? And what do
and
you
different
think?
things, a lot of things. I mean, we talk about almost anything. So we
Yeah.
talk about some stuff we knew a lot about, some things we didn't, but then we would just have our theories and thoughts about different things. So we would just kick it. And yeah, but it was very, and we still do that actually. We do that now. So, I mean, sometimes something's going on in the world or something's happening somewhere. We'll talk about it. So it's always been a great piece to be able to, and I do tell people this, sometimes people don't believe this, but, Jen really is my best friend. So, I mean, we're best friends to each other. I mean, sometimes that's good. Sometimes it could be not so good, because we also work together.
Right.
But yeah, that's, I think that really was what kind of the foundational piece of like, just made this thing work for us been together 24 years, been married 23 years. So,
Yeah.
and as I told her, I'm not going anywhere. So I wouldn't care what happened at this point. I'm not leaving. She leaves, I'm leaving with her. So she can't leave.
But he's right. We still do that to this day. So to answer your other question about how do we work together, it's not easy all the time.
Yeah.
But because we both had a real heart for entrepreneurship, and just creating new things and trying our hand at something new, we knew that it wasn't ideal for us to have necessarily careers out there. Even though I had one for a while, Rod has primarily been an entrepreneur most of his life. But we knew that we wanted to do business together. And so we just made it work. I mean, we both have different roles in our businesses. And yes, we do bump heads.
Oh yeah, it happens.
A lot.
It happens.
But we worked it out.
We're strong personality. I mean, yeah, which is an interesting piece about how we both are, because we're very strong personality types. So, but when we do have a disagreement, that they're good at disagreements. We disagree well, So it's part of the challenge of getting done what we get done. But
Yeah.
it does work for us, and sometimes, and we also know how to go to neutral corners too. So if we need a break, I'm going to go do something else. So we'll do that. We've had to do that from time to time.
Yeah.
Disagreeing well is an important skill, and it's one that I think a lot of us need to learn. It's one that we could teach government, right? Our government officials how to disagree
no
well,
doubt.
right? But and I want to apologize because I didn't give your full name. I introduced you as Ron and Jen, and it's Ron and Jen Spratley are here with us today in the studio. And I wish I had met you in 2005 when I had bought my first property, because it ended up, I held it for 10 years, but it had been a disaster. And so so I have a lot of questions. The first of which is, what was it about real estate? You each had a passion for real estate, but what was it that made you realize that you wanted to help other people understand how to manage it? And I've seen in some of your materials that you're saying no matter what the challenge is, you all can help people see their way through it. And like I said, I kind of did it on my own, and like I said, made tons of mistakes, and it's what made me gun shy about going back into the market. But yeah, what is it that led you to say, you know what, like, we know people need help out here, and we're going to do that?
Well, I think the backstory on the real estate itself, for me at least, and Jen didn't mention this, prior to us coming together, I was, I've been a licensed contractor for almost 30 years, and I worked the Washington, D.C. market for the early part of my career. And I was, minority certified, 8A contractor, all of that stuff, had really got into that government system and did really well, especially as a young contractor, working those markets. And in working those markets, I met a lot of people. And a lot of the people I met early on, most of them were investors. They were real estate investors. Now, many of them were business owners and did a lot of different things, but they also purchased and owned real estate. And, because of the business I was in, I would often find myself working on their properties, whether it be a commercial building, their homes, their rental homes. And, and I'm watching this and I'm going, I need to get in on this too, because I know how to fix them. But they were doing things that I didn't really at the time know how to do. I was seeing them purchase, buy land, do things like that. So it kind of just piqued my interest. And being an entrepreneur, the way that I was, I immediately put that on the list. I'm like, I've got to get into this to buy stuff for myself. So, of course, when Jen and I met, some years, later after I'd already been working in the industry, she actually had some background in real estate, even right out of college, and had gotten her realtor's license and worked for a company that was doing college housing, which was a kind of another great little niche or niche area that, a lot of people do and do very well at. And so when we met, we started talking about that. And I was like, I really want to do this, want to buy and invest in property. I do too. And that was kind of one of our immediate things we connected on. We're like, look, we should really dig into this. And very early on, matter of fact, when we got together, one of the first things we did was to buy some property. That was one of kind of very, very early on. We bought some properties together and started to do that, which was renovate them, fix them up. And I think for us, it did come a little easier on that side just because of what I did. But there were still a lot of things we didn't know early on. And then fast forward, and I'll let Jen jump in and tell you this piece, but we did that all the way up into the 2000s. We were building mid-2000s, building $1 million houses, subdividing land, doing some subdivisions and stuff like that, and building new houses, and right up to the market collapse.
Right, 2008.
And that changed some things. Yeah. And I'll let you kind of give the backstory on that part.
It was a very tough time for us in 2008. You probably remember it, Sonia. It was a very tough time.
Yep.
We had a pretty strong portfolio at the time, and the rug got pulled out from under us. And we learned a lot during that time, but we also learned that financial freedom was extremely important. Mm-hmm. And there were some things that we did not know going in to that time period, but we learned it all while we were down and out. We learned a lot of lessons, right. But we came back stronger and with a better investment strategy.
Yeah.
And so during all that time, still we're studiers. Like, we study anything that the Lord puts in front of us to do. We'll go and take a deep dive into it. And so we realized that there are a lot of people that are not financially free. And so we started to wonder why, right? And we started to just research and study this out. And it just took us aback. And we're like, wow, there's a lot of people that are in financial trouble. Mm-hmm. And so we started to go to different churches and stuff that we had relationships with. And we did little financial seminars and started to teach people how to invest in real estate. Some were very interested, but most people, like you said, were afraid and just had a lot of anxiety around it. And so we felt as though the Lord was putting on our heart to help these people become financially free, get their feet out of the net, show them another way to become financially free. And so we just took on that burden, like, we've got to help people. And so fast forward, which is why we came up with our coaching program that we now offer. You can come in on a Saturday for 90 minutes and learn probably more than you've ever known about real estate investing. And it's a powerful time, and people walk away going, I had no idea. Yeah. And so that's what we do. And it's a $7 90-minute course that you can come and take and listen and just sort of, wet your whistle or scratch that itch of just wanting to know, what is this all about? Why do people always talk about real estate investing, and what's the big deal? And we break it down in a very simple way.
Did you say it's a $7?
well, let's tell you why it's $7. We really don't get the $7 just to hold the spot. We want to make sure we've got a count. And surprisingly enough, people, I guess it's just the way we are. If we don't pay anything and sign up for something, a lot of times we'd come on and get ready. 20 people signed up. Possibly nobody could show up. But
it's free.
But something about it being a few dollars attached to it, we almost always get people to sign up to show up. So yeah, but we did that really because our initial goal for us is really that we have people that hear our voice and what we teach and talk about resonates with them. Because, it could be that maybe it's not us and maybe it's someone else. What we also learned during the process for us over all these years was the times we've had the biggest challenges, we didn't really have a coach. We didn't have a mentor. Right. We didn't have anybody. And so we would be left. Now, we had each other, And because we are the kind of people we are, and we're educated, smart people, we would always go and let's go and research and figure it out. So we would go do that, but oftentimes it would kind of be after the fact.
Right.
And we didn't have anyone to ask. So what we obviously learned over all these years, look, you will do so much better having seasoned, knowledgeable, educated people that have done what you want to do and have already gone there. Like we just had one of our mentors 2 days ago. I called him and asked a question. He answered it in less than 30 seconds. He said, do this, this, and this. Call me back later. Bye. And hung up. Okay. Now, what he told us, I didn't know to do. And it was very simple things. And we wrote them down and we immediately did what he said. But that's the difference. You don't have anyone, so you do it. And you think it's right, and then you only to get into it and be like, "Oh my goodness, this is not good."
We're getting ready to embark upon something new, Sonia, that you're going to be able to add to the list.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to be rolling out our own radio show soon. So it's a space we've never been in before, and so he was able to coach us like, boom, 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 do these 3 things. And what did we do when we hung up the phone? We did those 3 things.
Oh, no doubt.
So we're good students.
Now, and he's already on the radio. So that's another example. We said, who are we going to call? We're going to call Doc because he's already on the radio. He's on Sirius. He's on all the. So we said, we're going to call and just ask. And we called and asked. He called back, gave us an answer. And that's what we did. So that's the beauty now that we see that's available is you can find someone that their voice resonates with you and what you're looking to do. And it should be, we always tell people this, we could or could not be the people for you. So investigate. If it matches and it sounds like, what you've been looking for is what we do or offer, great. If it doesn't, keep looking. And I'm sure there's somebody that would fit, but you definitely need someone to help you.
Yeah. No, mentorship is so important. And I think culturally, because we always keep so many things close to the vest, which is what I was doing, right? We're kind of taught, like, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. And so you go off and you do these things by yourself and, these can be the results. And so one of the reasons, I'm going to talk about myself a little bit, but one of the reasons that I had an interest in real estate was because in New York City, we watched how we lost Harlem. In fact, I had written an article called Have We Lost Harlem? And there was so many opportunities for people in our community to be able to buy into Harlem. And for a number of different reasons, right? We just didn't. And there are great stories of people who have properties there, but so many more people could have. And I remember the one of the experts I had spoken to talked about, there may not be Harlem, but there's Philly, there's Atlanta, there's Baltimore, there's all of these there's Detroit, right? And it seems as if, I think when people are looking at the market, like, have we lost the opportunity to get into these cities? I live in Brooklyn, right? I'm a homeowner in Brooklyn, and we're watching people in all 5 boroughs be displaced in ways that are just like heartbreaking. And through scams, there are a number of things that are going on in the real estate markets here. There's scams and there's gentrification and there are a number of things. But what is it that you would say to somebody who feels like all the great markets are gone? At least that's the perception, right? All the great markets are gone. The interest rates are what they are. Houses are so much more expensive than what they were if I had invested 5, 10, 15 years ago. What is it that you say to folks about the opportunities to still invest?
Wow, those are very good questions.
Yes.
We've been in this space for almost 30 years, so we've seen many, 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 many cycles of the market going up and down. I remember when the interest rates were 17%. When we were young and we weren't investing at the time. I think I was actually working for a real estate brokerage at the time, and I may even have my license. But I saw when rates were 17% and real estate was still bought, still sold, people still invested. We always tell people, date the rate and buy the property, marry the property. The rates go up and down. You can always refinance. Do not allow the noise in the market to run you away from the market.
Right.
We are a bit concerned about some of the things that we hear that are going on in the coaching space. There's a lot of people that are jumping on board because of the promises of, hey, join this syndication, throw your money in, and you're going to just sit back and relax and get a return on the investment and make $1 million
in a month
and make it fast. And you don't have to worry, and you don't have to be the one to, find the property and all this. We do not encourage that. I'm not saying that it's wrong. For a seasoned investor, it may be right. But we've had folks call us up and say, hey, I'm a part of the syndication. I put in 25 grand. And our question to them is, do you know what you're doing? Do you know how to invest? And the answer is always no. I have no idea what's going on. I just know I'm going to make money. And so to answer your question, do not be discouraged. I mean, maybe it's not in Brooklyn. Maybe you have to go out a little further. Our advice is always start small. Start local if you can. If you can't, then go out a little further until you can find that market that you can jump into. However, I was just in Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago. Was it a couple of weeks ago? Because we have a daughter that lives there. And we're encouraging her to start look for something to buy. So we jumped online and we started looking for some property. And it was in Brooklyn somewhere, but it was a single family house for like 200 and some thousand. Now it needed work.
A lot of work.
It needed a lot of work. It did. But there's stuff everywhere.
But her dad's a contractor. So for her, it works.
For her, it works.
Absolutely.
My point is there is property everywhere. And I think when you tell yourself there's nothing there, you don't see it. So, you know what I mean? It's like everyone's saying there's nothing around. Everyone is saying the interest rates are high. Everyone is saying don't do this now and don't do that now. You start to buy into that. There's always a deal.
And here's something else too. And this is the difference for us that we can really touch. Because see, I've worked big city. I worked, like I said, Washington, D.C. was really home for me for 18 years. I did 18 years of business there. Worked Baltimore, worked all of Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area. You name it, I worked there. Worked downtown, worked under several administrations of the mayors in all the big cities there. Worked in, Atlanta. We went to the Atlanta market, worked there for 7 years. Same thing. Knew some very, very good people there. We've worked Florida market. We've worked, North Carolina market.
Alabama.
We've worked Alabama market, believe it or not. And in all these markets where we've personally worked and developed relationships with the city officials, the building department, it's a lot of times it's just the things that people don't know. If you knew the things to do, you could save yourself a lot of grief. So part of what we've really did as part of what we try to do is educate. Okay. It's like a foundational education. It doesn't mean you have to be a huge developer. You might not want to own 100 units. That's fine. You might just want to own 5. But even if you just want to own 5, you need this foundation. We're going to give you this. And then as long as you do this and you always use it, then you protect yourself. You get the right type of property. You get the right kind of tenant. You get the right kind of loan, and then you get the right kind of people to help you manage it. Handyman, contractor, whatever you need, lawyer. And we call it your team. And you put your team together. And once you get your team and you work out all your imperfections with the team, and you guys kind of grow together. And that becomes your group. That's your go-to. When you got a project, you call the same lawyer. When you call the same contractor. You call and you, believe it or not, those relationships, and some of them for us, and Jen will tell you this, I've got contractors that I've known for 30 years. They've been working with me off and on for that long. I can call them now at home and they'll do things for me. So you'll build that yourself. And that's what we tell people, just start working it. But you do have to build it. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, we believe that we have a proven strategy, Sonia, that we've developed over these many, many years. And that's one of the things that we teach during that weekend workshop, that Saturday workshop. We touch on it. But in our course, we actually hold your hand and walk you through how to do this step by step. Most coaching programs do not do that. They just throw you out there and you have no idea what's going on and what you're doing. But going back to your comment about prices and all this, sometimes it's a good idea to partner up with somebody that you trust, that is like-minded with you. Hey, let's go in together and get this first deal. And maybe this first one will have to sell. in order to get some cash out of it
build some cash
to do the next deal. So there's always a way to do it. You just have to get together with somebody that can help open up your mind to how can we invest in real estate. People will always invest in real estate. I don't care how much it is. So you got to find that property that works for you.
And so we say the best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. And the next best time is right now. Okay. Yeah. Because 20 years from now will be 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, you have to get in. And I think when we met, I had already purchased a home. And I think my first home, and I had VA, and my first home, the interest was 13%. And at the time, well, I believe that was good because I think it was in the 15 range. So getting VA, I got it at 13. So, but I didn't look at that then like it was way too expensive, because I qualified for it. Now I qualified for less house, but even at 13%, I did qualify and I was able to purchase a home, a single family house. So I think that's one of the misconceptions. People don't understand and they look at just the interest rate. The rates are too high. I can't buy a house now. Well, the reality is the rates could be higher next year. Right. So, you don't really know. So it's if you're ready, and the deals also could be not as relevant, available next year. The numbers work. So it's really about availability. It's about getting a good deal. And we always say, like Jen said about the rate, but we always say also, if you evaluate the deal, the numbers will speak for themselves. It'll be a yes or a no. Right. And that's including the rate. So if the way that we teach people how to evaluate deals, let's say the rate was 15%. Well, if you use what we tell you, you'll still get a yes or a no. It could be 15% and it could be a yes if you run all the numbers. So, it's just a difference in knowing really how to do it and what to look for.
And I think too, when the rates dropped so drastically low, do you realize that was the lowest they have ever been in the history of this country when they got to 1.5, 2%? They had never, ever been that low. Yeah. So when people see them at 6 and 7, it's like, oh my goodness, they're so high. That's probably more normal. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. You may not ever see that 2% and that 1% ever again in your lifetime, right? Nobody really knows. But don't sit around and wait for that 1 and 2% to come back, because you could wait 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It never happens. You could have bought a property and it could have been appreciating in value over those 3, 4, 5 years. And that's how wealth is built in real estate. It's built from the appreciation in the property, the tenant paying down the debt, you building up equity, and that equity helps to build your net worth because you're going to get another property. And that net worth is all about the equity that you have in there. And then you get the depreciation, which is why wealthy people buy real estate. For those 4 reasons, primarily: cash flow, appreciation, depreciation, and then tax advantages. Right. If it works, if the numbers work and you can cash flow, it's a good deal.
Yeah. But look, success leaves a trail. People often don't follow it, but all the wealthiest people in this country and other countries, it's easy enough for you to do your own research to see this. All of them hold some substantial portion of their wealth in real estate. All of them do. From Bill Gates to Warren Buffett, you name them. That might not be what they do. Elon Musk. They just because they're not in the real estate business, don't be fooled that they don't own enormous amounts of real estate, because it is the one sweet spot that gives you the best tax advantages for big business. Right. So they're all going to own it. And why do they own it? Because they know it's the best thing to go to. And for us, unfortunately, we mention this, we do say it, and it's a very unfortunate thing. But in the Black and brown community, even worse. Home ownership for us hasn't changed since 1961. Yeah, that's crazy. That's almost inconceivable. Yeah, how we could go from 1961 to 2023, almost 2024, and our numbers of home ownership literally are worse.
The needle has not moved.
That's like mind blowing to us, especially someone like us that owns so many properties, and we're always preaching this to everyone. Look, you got to own real estate. You can't not own it. If you don't want it for you, you do it for your grandkids. Yeah. But you have to have ownership. And the word says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Yeah. There's a responsibility for us to be doing something that's generational. That's bigger than just us.
But, and that you say that, I was having a conversation with someone just yesterday who, what's happening in our neighborhoods is that developers will come in with cash, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have properties that may have been in the family since, the 1970s, which is not a long time, but a significant amount of time, that maybe they might have bought their house in the 1960s, 1970s, and they probably paid $30,000, right? 40,000. In some cases, I've heard 15,000 for a brownstone or one of these limestone double, multi-family properties. What is it? I wonder, and I don't know. This is not a question. I don't know if any of us have an answer to, but I wonder if in your courses and in your discussions you see it. What is it that allows us more often than not to take the money and run rather than stay and and so this is an interesting case, right? So the gentleman that I spoke to yesterday is living next to a house where the father left it for his son. The developers are in our neighborhood all the time. And so he said to the young man who has now inherited his father's home, I will give you what the developers are offering you plus 50,000 on top of whatever they're offering you. Like, please don't sell the home. If you sell it, I will buy it from you. And the young man was just like, don't worry, I'm not selling. He sold. Right. And so, there could be an argument that, most people aren't going to be able to give me what the developers are giving me, but now given the opportunity to actually make more than a developer was offering you. And I don't think this is an isolated case.
And we, as Black and brown people, we just need to be real here. We can say this.
Yes, please.
There's a little bit there's a lack of trust in our own community with us working, doing things together, and really, trusting one another. That number one, we could do some things that would avoid us having to do that right there. And if that gentleman asked him, which I don't think it's anything more he could have done. No. He gave him an opportunity. He said he would pay more even.
More.
Why you wouldn't have a honest conversation with that individual to then keep it in a community of people that saying, we want to kind of preserve what we have here. Yeah. It's mind blowing. And the second part is, and I'll let Jen say what she's got on her mind, but the lack of education for us. Here's an incredible thing for that scenario you just mentioned. If that young man was in our course, the very first thing we're going to say to him is, you're not going to sell. Mm-hmm. And if you need money, we're going to show you how to get money from the asset, but you don't have to sell it. Right. Okay. So you still can get what you need, but you have to keep the asset. Don't get rid of it. An asset that's been improved in value very easily enough can be proven what the value is, and you can easily pull money out of that
and not be taxed,
and not be taxed on that money, and then move forward to use that, but still have it. So you're spot on. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think there's two things. One is money, not knowing, and the other is the lack of education when it comes to investing in this asset. Mm-hmm. And so, to Rod's point, he wanted the money. Yeah, okay? He did. And he wanted it fast.
But he could have had the money and the house.
Yeah.
If he'd had the education on how to keep the house, pull the money out, not be taxed on the money.
The mortgage has already been paid, right? So it's a mortgage-free home. Yeah.
Exactly. So he could have pulled enough money out. Yeah. And even if he didn't want to live there, let's say he pulled the money out, he would not be taxed on the money that he's pulled out.
No, you can't be taxed on taking equity out of your house.
Right.
You're not taxed on that.
So he could have moved out and done something with the money or whatever, put a tenant in the house. He would have still owned the asset, still would have been able to get the tax write-offs every year, still would have been able to get the depreciation from the property, would have gotten cash flow from the tenant paying rent. And in a few years, the house value would have gone up and he still would have owned the property. Yeah. So I think it's a lack of education and understanding, and then the need for that money, that immediate need for the dollar that's flashed in front of you when you could have had both.
And what the developers know to do, and this is the irony of this, we own properties, and like I said, we have property in Atlanta, and we get developers calling us. They don't know who we are. They just
Right.
go in and they search the records,
Right.
and they send us a letter. Oh, we'll give you cash for your house.
Yeah.
And periodically, in some strange way, every once in a while, one of them hunts down a phone number and actually calls.
Right. Yeah.
And I get a little bit of a chuckle out of it because they'll call and they'll say, "You own the house?" And they'll tell us the address. Yes, we do. And it's, well, are you interested? We've got a cash offer. I said, no, I'm not interested in selling. I said, but I'd be interested. Do you have anything that we can purchase? I said, can you send me a list of what you might have available? And we'd be willing to buy something from you. Oh, no, we're not selling anything. I said, well, we're not either. So that's not what we do. We do what you do.
Right.
We don't blame you for asking.
So to your point, it's just the need for the money and the education, but you can have both when it comes to real estate investing.
Right.
Such a powerful asset.
One of the things that you had said earlier is there were a lot of things that you didn't know, and I'm sure that some of the things that you don't know is what a lot of people don't know. Can you list a few of those things that might resonate with those listening? Some of the things some of the common things that people miss.
One of the earliest ones for us, and I'll share this very transparently. One of the earliest ones for us was we were not extremely knowledgeable in the lending process around investment properties. Because it's different from, you buying a primary residence. So when we wanted to get into investing and really kind of ramp up, we just didn't have a lot of knowledge there. So we, look for people and do what anybody else would do. I think we even looked in the yellow pages. I don't, because we may have searched some online, but we found a couple people that said, hey, we loan money on investment property. I think that was and then we were like, okay. So we called. Well, part of that was, since we didn't know that process, it was very easy for people to add junk fees onto us. Okay. And early on, we paid a lot of junk fees. And what I mean by junk fees, an extra point for this, a loan closing cost, a processing fee, a this fee, a that fee, a back door free, front door fee, and they would just list them all out and then kind of brush it up under the rug and say, well, you still will do pretty good because the rate's only this. Well, we just didn't know. But here's the beautiful part about how resilient the two of us were. We always ran the numbers to the extent that even with all those junk fees, we still made money. And so, but we just found out later, we were paying way extra for a number of things that we didn't need. That was thousands of dollars that was brought to our attention maybe 5 to 7 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By someone that became a mentor to us. And he happened to be a lawyer, and we would go to him to do these closings. And the beautiful part about that was we just became friends. We would go in, how's your wife? Hey, how's your wife? And we would just sit there and talk. And he grew fond of us, over the course of years. And one day, the one person that we were dealing with that happened to have been helping us process these wasn't there. And he said, how good of friends, or how well do you know her? And we were kind of like, well, we met her, and
she's helping us get these deals.
And he said, she's charging you too much. He just said it. He said, you can do much, much better. And of course the light went on. We were like, what? He was like, you can do much better. He said, I'm not going to say anymore. He said, don't dislike her or anything. He said, but I like you guys. And I'm just telling you can do better. So of course, the next question for us was, can you elaborate? Can you tell us what to do? And so he did. He said, okay, do this. He said, I'm going to give you a name for someone to call. You tell them my name, you tell them who I am, and tell them that you're a good friend of mine, and I told you to call. And so we did just that. And it was a major bank. He told us to call. We were not getting monies from banks like major. This was one of the oldest banks in Virginia. He said, you call them and tell them that you're a friend of mine. Call the bank president and tell them you're a friend of mine and tell them what you need. And so we did that. And, we went in and, of course we're thinking they're going to ask for like the stuff we used to give in, 6 years of tax returns and a whole bunch of crazy stuff, And so we go in prepared and, the guy chats with us and he, asked a few questions and, hey, what are you doing? We told him what we were doing. How long you been doing it? I think we answered all that. Okay. Then he just said, well, how much money do you need? And, we told him typically we need this. And during that time, I think it's $400,000 or $500,000, somewhere around there per deal, something like that. And he said, okay, I can do that. Now, yeah, just like that. Just like that. So our response is probably like yours. We're looking at each other like, did he just say he can do that?
Sonia, we were like, wait, don't you want all these papers
Yeah,
that we have in our briefcase?
Don't you want this briefcase full of documents we've got here that we've been given to everybody every time we...
I'm like, wait, I have a vial of blood. Do you want that too? But to Rod's point, I think what we learned was now we question everything. I don't care if it's coming. I don't care if it's coming
it taught
from
us something.
I don't care if it's coming from an attorney,
Yeah.
a loan officer. When the paper comes across our desk and we look at the numbers, we're like, what's that for?
Yeah.
We're not paying that.
Yeah.
What's this extra $100? We're not paying that.
Yeah.
Now we negotiate and we push back. So we
teach that. Mm-hmm. Because I'm gonna tell you, we've been sitting in $1 million deals, and Jenna, and we pit bulls about this. So we say, look, don't wait till we get there. Email us the documents because we want to see them before we get there. Now, if you wait, it's just going to slow you guys up because we're still going to do it.
Right.
But if you do it before, and lo and behold, we'll get it, and we go right to the numbers. I can look at it. And we flip over, it's like, you need to take that 150 off. You need to take the 69 off. I'm not paying for a wire fee. I'm not paying for this. I'm not paying for that. If you go change that and bring it back, we'll sign it. Wow. And you know what they do? They get up, they go take it off, and they bring it back.
And they bring it back, yeah.
Just like that. If you don't ask, though.
Right. And most people expect contracts to be difficult, and they expect them to have a lot of things. And so... Yeah. To your point, no one questions or nobody pushes back. And so they just automatically think.
Yeah.
And in the relationship that you had with this woman, sometimes when you are comfortable in a relationship, you just trust that the other person is going to do everything that they are supposed to do on your behalf. And that was my biggest lesson, that just because you guys come from the same place or you bond on some certain in certain areas, it doesn't mean that this person, if you don't do your homework, is going to have your best interest at heart. 100%.
100%. And now it just comes automatically for us. It's just what we do.
Yeah. And you'll get used to that. Look, but what I will say to you though is, and number one, I applaud you because I did hear you say you're still there and you're obviously a homeowner in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And like we said to our daughter and son-in-law, which is we're encouraging them, whether they stay in Brooklyn or not. Mm-hmm. But what we said to them, we don't care where you go. Right. Because if anybody that follows us on YouTube or anywhere else, you will quickly see one thing with us. I don't care where you see us, you're going to see us looking at some real estate. Right. Whether we're in California, it doesn't matter. Wherever we go, we're sniffing real estate. Yeah. And we'll tell people often, it's like, hey, we're in Simi Valley, California. Guess what we're doing? Well, we're there for something else.
Right.
But hey, we got some time. So what we're doing, we're looking at real estate because that's how we find deals.
Oh, I have an idea for you guys. I think you asked a question earlier about, what do you do when the prices are going high and interest rates are high? And I said maybe you could partner and some other things you could do. Well, you can find off-market deals. Don't wait for it to come on the market. You guys know people in the community. You ask them.
Like this neighbor that you just talked about.
Exactly. Pick up the phone and say, are you interested in selling? If you are, please let me know. If it's not this year, maybe it's next year. And you just start connecting and making those relationships and asking people, is anyone ready to sell? Is anybody thinking about moving? Mm-hmm. I'd be interested in buying your property.
Yeah. And those things, they happen way more than people think. This happened several years ago, but I had a really good friend who, an elderly woman she had no family. And she literally sold him a brownstone for $100 because she didn't have anybody to leave it for. I know. Beautiful brownstone on Eastern Parkway. And so there are all sorts of stories. There are all sorts of circumstances, right? And one of the things that you said that I think is important too, like the cycles, there are always going to be cycles, right? And so the market's going to be up, it's going to be down, it's going to be tight, it's going to be difficult, but it's also going to be easy. There are always going to be opportunities. And you just, and one of your your videos, you talked about the point is you have to see it for yourself, right? Like if you can see it for yourself, then the opportunity can become real eventually.
Yeah. Well, we try to never with what we do, because we're very transparent about how we do what we do. I mean, and we've had things that we look back on and we were like, we could have did this or did that. But the beautiful thing about what we've been able to do is we've consistently made an above average profit. Okay. Consistently. And that's really the answer right there. Is our recipe good enough that it endures over a long period of time? And for us, it has. I mean, because we're talking 28 years into real estate investing. And yes, we did have a glitch in 07, 08, like everyone else, which was really around bad mortgages, right? Because our deals still really had great numbers. Right. But when they call your loans, it doesn't matter how great your numbers are, because if you don't have the cash, you can't pay them off, which is kind of how we got caught. We had deals that had equity, but what was happening, the bank was saying, we no longer want to let you have this loan. Right. So give us the money. And we're like,
and the rates changed.
And then the rates got crazy and stuff happened. So, but
what's interesting with that too is that you all were able to rebuild even better than you did originally. And I think that's an important point for folks, because even if you did have, like me, had a bad investment, or if you're thinking that, I'm going through a bad time financially, you can always recover. And real estate is an investment area where you can always recover.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. We recovered big time. Yeah. We were like, okay, we're back. We bought a property for $1,700, a property for $2,500, a property for $25,000.
That was after the collapse. We were buying properties for pennies on the dollar. Right. Pennies on it. I mean, we bought a house in East Point, Georgia, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, the cheapest house we've ever purchased. It was $1,700. We bought it from a bank. Wow. I kid you not, $1,700. And when we were doing one of our master classes, our coaching classes, I went up into the archives and pulled out some old documents. I said, because you say that, but people don't believe it, right?
Right.
So I went and got the HUD-1. So I pulled it out. I put it up there. I said, look, I'm going to show you guys this. And I put them on share screen, and I showed them these HUD-1s from these purchases. Yeah. And this is in 2011, 2012. Mm-hmm. Wow. 2012, you buy a house for $1,700. We bought one for $6,700 that's still rented to this day. 67 that was actually built in 2014,
something like that. Yeah.
Oh, 2013. Wow. So it wasn't an old house.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, then we got so many stories about properties. We've got properties we purchased that we don't own now. Some on Capitol Hill. We own property on Capitol Hill, Pennsylvania Avenue, Capitol Hill Extended. We had property all throughout that area. And condos, single families. We had houses in McLean, Virginia, Vienna, Virginia, Tyson's Corner. I mean, these are high dollar neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We had properties that we've gone back and looked them up where we paid $200,000 and $300,000. They're worth $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.5 million, $1.7 million. And this is just in 10 years. This is less than 15 years.
Yeah.
So people are thinking, you're going to make this $1 million in a month. Yeah. But do you know how fast 5 years, 10 years? I mean,
yeah.
And you're not really, it's not costing you dearly to have it. Right. You're just managing it.
Right.
And getting the cash flow every month, and the tax write-offs every year, and the depreciation and all the other.
So you can't convince us that there's a better investment. I mean, that's us. Some people will say, hey, but as far as we're concerned, this was a blessing from the Lord, and the best investment opportunity we could have ever gotten into as a business and a husband and wife team was the real estate investing game. So we love it, and we do recommend it for everyone, basically. Now, we do understand that some people don't want to do what others want to do. Like some people don't want to do management,
right?
And we understand that, but there's things for that.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Well, I'm sure the folks listening want to know how we can sign up for the $7 class, the master class.
It's really, really simple. You just go to realestatememasteryworkshop.com. And I think our next one, we try to do it like every other
They're
Saturday.
every 2 weeks.
Every other Saturday. So we just had one last Saturday. So I think the next one's the 23rd. You just go to realestateMasteryWorkshop.com, sign up, and we'll see you on Zoom.
Yeah, we do them live. They're live on Zoom.
Live, yeah.
Okay, very good. And how else can people follow you? You have a YouTube channel?
We do. It's just Ron and Jen Spratley. Mm-hmm. So it's at Ron and Jen Spratley.
Okay.
I think that's our YouTube.
Yeah, do you have any other social media platforms that people can follow?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's our name. So if you whether you do Rod Spratley or Jen Spratley, will pop up for both of our Instagram, for our Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. All those, but it pops up under our name. So if you Google us, it'll come up. You'll probably see one of our YouTube videos with us doing something because we do move around a lot.
And my Instagram is jenspratley.coach. But our email, hey, we're still old school. We still like emails.
Yeah, you can email us.
So you can email us at connect@rodandjenspratley.com.
Okay, all righty. And when are you launching the radio show?
So we're under. We've kind of worked out some contract details. We're going to be on Christian Network. It's on the Truth Network.
Okay.
But we will be on Saturday mornings and doing a 30-minute show, and it'll probably be a similar format. We'll have some guests on. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We'll talk about some other business things as well, but kingdom principles and how to run a great business and how to invest in real estate,
wealth building primarily.
Yeah. So stuff like that. But we love any topics around seeing people just advance in business and kingdom principles that just help them build great business and just do well. And we're in a great country. We get to do this stuff here and we're not restricted.
Right.
So
we want people to be financially free, break the shackles off. That's our goal.
Well, we'd love to have you back. There's so much I think that we didn't cover. I know that we didn't cover. And so we'd love to have you back to talk about managing retail products and doing all these other things. So would love to have you back. Thank you for coming on and sharing such wonderful information. I am going to be taking your course. I hope everybody else is going to sign up for your course. And just thank you for coming on and sharing such great stories, such great information, and amazing insight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. We really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another great guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Alleyne. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First Podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.